Hey, this is Madeline Sklar.
And Suze Cooper, and you're listening to All Things Audio. Unfortunately, Madeline's not going to join us today. She's feeling poorly, so we'll wish her well and hope that she gets well very soon, and she will join us again next week. So we are going to have a chat about Clubhouse. I am so grateful to Michael and Morgan for agreeing to join me today to talk about this stuff, not least because I'm learning about it too. Oh my goodness, so much has come out of Clubhouse in the last 7 days. I don't even really know where to start. I mean, I'm going to start with instant invites because that's what we left off talking about last week. We were talking about what was then called One Tap Web, which is now launched and called instant invites. Michael, I'm going to come to you first. Can you explain to us what instant invites are and what this really does for Clubhouse, how it opens up the app?
Absolutely, Susan. Thank you for having me on today. So instant invites is connected to the houses on Clubhouse. And basically what it gives a house member the option to do is to share a link from a house room to basically anybody through a text message or a Facebook post or any other means. And then those people can join the stage of that room immediately to be able to participate in the conversation. And then after a little bit of time, it gives them an option to join the app, download it, become a full member, get all the other perks of a room. But it really is a simple, easy way for people to join in on a conversation and get the Clubhouse experience, sort of one sample, one little morsel at a time. I guess that would be the easiest way to say it.
So we think really that this is a way of introducing people to Clubhouse and to social audio, don't we? Because you don't actually have to have the app in the first place to be able to join in with a room. Is that right?
That is correct, yeah. As long as you have some sort of a web browser and an ability to speak through that browser, and it works on the phone or on desktop, then yeah, anybody, even without an account to Clubhouse, can join in and speak in a Clubhouse house room.
And I think I've got a tweet here in front of me that I'll share hopefully in the nest in a moment that you put out that said guests are limited to the amount of time that they can speak in the room. Is that right?
Yeah, last time I saw, and it may have been changed, but I don't think so, it gives people 15 minutes. So from the time you join the room, you have 15 minutes to stay in that conversation. After 5 minutes of being in the conversation, it starts a countdown timer on screen, and it'll give you occasional reminders saying, okay, your time's almost up. You really probably should download the app so you can keep going in this room and get the full Clubhouse experience. So there's been some debate. There's really been conversation back and forth about whether that's an appropriate thing to do, or if Clubhouse should give people more time, or make it a day, make it just for the entire length of the room. I guess that'll get sort of fleshed out as time goes on here, but that's what they started with.
Yeah, that seems a bit bullish to me. To me, that's a little bit that would annoy me if I'd been called into a room and then I'm just going to be hounded to like download the app straight off. I think I'd want to feel that I was welcome to stay in the event that I've been invited to, at least for the length of whatever that room might be. So yeah, that's a really interesting decision on their part. I mean, I guess they're after people downloading the app. They want new users, right?
I mean, absolutely. And Clubhouse is all about building friendships. That's their sort of motto that they've been going with. And so, they want to bring more people onto the app to make more friends with each other and build more communities. So how ideally to do that is still up for discussion, but that's where they're going. 15 minutes to get it started for new users.
15 minutes to make those connections, those new friendships, and then away you go. Wow. Yeah, that's I will definitely be seeing how that goes. I wonder if they will remove that or what they'll do with that. That's quite an interesting thing to watch. So Morgan, I'm going to bring you in here. I mean, there was a whole list of things that we've kind of got here that Clubhouse are rolling through. I think the next one that I've got here on my list is subscription houses. So houses being the new way of connecting with people in more intimate, invite-only groups. as we've discussed over the last few weeks. But now we're talking about making money out of these houses. So tell us what you know.
Yeah, so this is still a work in progress. A few other things have to be in place before it launches, and it will launch as a beta first. But basically, it's a way to, let's say you have a house, you're building a community, you can add a paid tier to that. So you'll have people in the house who are just normal members, and some of them can choose to subscribe. It's a monthly subscription. And you'll get a few things with that. And we're just learning what those things are now. Um, one of them is going to be just straightforwardly access to subscriber-only rooms in the house. So that's a fairly straightforward one. Others, which we need to see more details of, are kind of more interesting for me, I think. So they're things like you get the ability to vote on proposals for things that house might do together. And the subscription money of the house will go into a shared pool of funds. So there's a kind of group dynamic about proposing things to do, how to spend the money, and then doing that together in various ways. We'll see what people do with that, because it's kind of a new thing, certainly for Clubhouse, but often this is a kind of a group-based monetization, really. So that's the sort of exciting bit. But again, this is still fairly early on. They're testing this. It hasn't been rolled out to normal users yet. And some of the other bits about houses, which maybe we'll talk about, have to be in place first, I think.
Yeah, I mean, houses themselves are pretty new. So to be talking about monetizing them quite so early on, again, seems like a real kind of almost a rush into it. I mean, so is everybody kind of aware of houses, do you think, at this point? I know that they've been quite a diversive introduction over on the app, but, are people even aware of what they are, and are people joining them before we even start talking about how we make money out of them?
Yeah, so I think many people were, but not everybody, and that's really changing this month. So what happened in January is that, as we know, house rooms could open up to the public hallway, which meant that everybody else on the app would then see these things going on in their normal hallway and would join a house room. And if they'd never experienced it, this would be their first experience of what a house was. And maybe they would then become members of that house and would be able to see inside the house, as it were. So I think it's just sort of generally known what houses are now on the app. And people were obviously sort of quite excited, I think, of opening up rooms to the public too. So this was a way to meet new people who weren't already members, and have different kinds of discussions than were happening in houses previously. So yeah, I think people do know, and then there's this other broader question about wanting to know what to do with them. Really, what are they good for? And this is a thing I think everybody's trying to experiment with and find new things that they can do with it. I mean, the other thing we'll come on to is there's obviously well known the other kind of structure on Clubhouse, which is the club. So the question is, well, look, how are these different to that? And what's going to happen to clubs? And we got a bit more of the answer on that this week too.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, actually, Michael, I know that you'd said that you're going to be switching your club into a house. I mean, what does that involve, and why would you take that decision? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
So we got more clarity on that from Clubhouse last night. And essentially what is happening is that as Clubhouse is moving their entire platform really over to a new code base so it can support these subscription houses and some other features that people have requested, they are going to be transitioning away from clubs to houses and merging existing clubs and converting them into houses. And clubs will actually be phased out on the Clubhouse platform. And so they've already set up a mechanism that if somebody wants to convert an existing club over to a house, that they can do that. It brings membership along. The house version of the community adds some things like the house chat and so on, but some things are not in place yet, like replays. So any recordings that are underneath a club page or heading right now, if you were to convert a club over to a house, then those replays would basically disappear from the club page, and they would still exist on users' profiles, but they would no longer have the club title at the top. Now, Clubhouse has said, and they released a document yesterday, that they are working on fully supporting the club to house migration, and everything that users got in clubs will transfer over eventually within the next few months to houses. So replays will transfer over, open memberships will transfer over, the ability to host rooms within a house that has a more sort of standard speakers queue where, there's moderators who can invite people on stage or disallow people to come onto the stage. All of that is going to be transitioning over this spring, is what they have told us. So yes, I do have a club over there for my brand. I have a number of replays that are on it, and I do want those replays to come along. And so I will be waiting for more information and for the implementation of clubs to houses that brings all the other features along with it. And then at that point, then I'll transition it over.
Wow. So it really sounds like a name change, but within it, there are these extra features. So in the end, we end up with houses rather than clubs, and they do more stuff. Wow.
On a sort of a wider scope, Clubhouse is really transitioning sort of its ideology about their platform away from what was originally called creator first, doing shows and people hosting public things and so on, to more of a community-driven friendship machine, as somebody likes to call it, who I know. And really, Clubhouse is focused on building friendships and building relationships, and maybe doing some good in the world, like with these subscription houses, and the membership can vote on maybe some things that the house can do with the funds that it collects to do that good or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, Morgan, I think it was one of your comments that you said that kind of these rooms aren't going to be houses, are going to be less kind of show based, less kind of host led, and much more community led. Exactly what Michael's just said there. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so you'll end up with a thing that you can configure in all sorts of different ways, but the default way and the kind of core experience of this is very much more like that. So by default, at the moment, any member can open a room, and they tend to be sort of small and mostly like private, not public. So there is that. But if you want to do public shows, you'd absolutely be able to do that. So you might set it up so that, much like clubs at the moment, only a certain number of people would be able to open the rooms there, and those rooms will mostly be public, and you'll be doing lots of scheduling in advance. You'll be able to do that too. You'll just have this wide range of other things that will be, much better, I think, for the community and participatory stuff. So more so than was available in the past. The other kind of I'll use the word simple here, but it's exactly what I mean. We talked a few weeks back about going back onto Clubhouse now and being presented with quite a lot of stuff. A lot of it is new. And you think, well, look, what do I do here? Like, there's a lot going on. This doesn't seem to be simple. So I think one of the big advantages of this is, rather than have different kinds of things, and you have to say, well, look, what is a club? What is a house? You just have one thing on Clubhouse. It's called a house. You can do all sorts of different things with it, depending on what it is you want to do or what you want to do with others. And so there are houses, and then there are the rooms that those houses do. And that's it. So you join Clubhouse, join some houses, meet some people, you have conversations. Some of those conversations are going to be public. Some of them are going to be private, depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, and actually, Michael, you used a great word for this. I think you said the hallway at the moment or the app at the moment is bloated. I love that description. I mean, it is very, very busy over there, and it does really feel like it needs to be simplified so that the journey that Morgan's just explained is really what you get when you open the app. I mean, certainly for me at the moment, I open it up and I'm unsure where I'm going from the hallway. And I'm aware that there are some areas that will be private, some areas that I can drop into, some areas I can hang around in and wait for other people to come across. There are some I can jump into that are live right now. I can listen to replays. There's just so much stuff stacked in there that it's very difficult to navigate. So do we know if Clubhouse are going to be looking at kind of simplifying that and narrowing those choices down and signposting a little bit better?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
You please go.
So the work is happening right now to simplify the interface. So that will be going along with the migration thing. So at some point they say by the spring, you'll have just the one thing, the house. And the navigation is going to be really simple. You'll have a tab where you'll see all the houses you're in or find new ones. And then you'll have the live hallway, which is all the rooms going on right now. And, those will be in houses, public or private. So, that'll be it, and you'll be able to search and find things, but it's mostly like I can see the rooms that are going on now.
Yeah, I really do think that's what it needs, particularly if, they're thinking of inviting people that have never been over there before. Someone coming to the app fresh at the moment would be, forgiven for being just completely overwhelmed by everything that they're faced with in the app. Obviously, what they're looking at doing is bringing people in with these instant invites, introducing new people who've never been in social audio rooms before. So it feels like actually they need to get that navigation right. Otherwise, people aren't going to hang around. And actually what they're trying to do with instant invites won't give them the outcome that they want, which is more users, because people will just be left there confused, I think. So it's good to hear that they're thinking about that as well.
There's an extra detail with instant invites, which I think is important, is at the moment, and this might just be the case, instant invites are always to closed house rooms. They're not to public events. So you're being invited into a more relaxed, informal space by somebody you already know, and you're being asked to talk. So you don't have to worry about there being a public audience or if replays are on. It's a really kind of comfortable space for somebody to arrive as their first experience on Clubhouse. That's how these people at least will encounter Clubhouse. And the other important thing is that what they're doing is they're talking. So the first thing they're doing on the platform isn't listening. You're not joining a public room as a member of the audience. You're joining as a speaker. And these are the kinds of new users that the platform will be trying to get.
Wow, they're asking a lot of people, aren't they then, really? If the reason that you're receiving this instant invite is you've never been on Clubhouse before, you've not been involved maybe in social audio before, but you're being invited in for your 15 minutes of time in there to be a speaker. And then if you haven't downloaded the app, you're being nagged to download it and become a user of Clubhouse. I think they're asking an awful lot of people.
Yeah. What's interesting is that Clubhouse is really bringing back something that a lot of social media and the internet has sort of pushed out of the public sphere, and that is actually talking to each other. And that is the core element of Clubhouse, is talking to each other. And so, we're like, even in my generation, we grew up talking on the phone with our friends and things like that. There's a lot of other people that just are not used to talking to each other. And so, yes, it is sort of forcing people into doing that, but it's doing it in a fairly comfortable way. And it's a little bit of a simple private way to get to talking with friends that you do know in real life, or other people who are of similar interests to you, and getting you used to the idea, and then opening it up to a wider audience as you get more comfortable and so on. I think a lot of people, even here on Twitter Spaces, have found that the power of voice and the power of speaking to each other is remarkable, and you can communicate so much through voice, and you can make such a difference in building relationships through voice, where in comments and Facebook and text messages and so on, there's just so much that you miss and can even misinterpret. And so I think it's a special thing, but Clubhouse, they've been trying to find their way over the last couple of years, figuring out sort of what the ingredients of the secret sauce really are to make this work the best way it can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what a great way of putting it. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about paid houses. Now, is this in addition to the subscriptions, or is this just another title for subscriptions? I've seen a tweet from Alessandro Paluzzi, which I'll pop in the nest and the show notes in a moment. But yeah, this kind of explores the idea of a paid house. And I'm just wondering whether or not that is the same as a subscription, just by another name. Morgan, what say you?
So we'll wait to see what actually is rolled out. But from what I understand, that it is. It's like the starting place for all of this is going to be the recurring monthly subscription. And when they say paid room, this doesn't mean a ticketed room like we used to have on Spaces. It means you're paying your monthly dues, and you'll be able to go to one of the rooms for people who are paying. So if an admin wants to start a room for subscribers only, they would start a paid room. And other things may be added down the line there, but I think that's the kind of starting place, is that recurring monthly subscription or membership dues. And then we've got other questions about how the money is collected, how it's distributed, what you can do with it as a group as well as a solo creator.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting thing that they've brought into the mix. The whole idea that members of the house can vote on what might happen to that subscription fee. You can imagine, well, a whole array of different ways that money might want to be used. And as I said last week, it's really kind of relying on that, relying on democracy for people to vote and decide what they want to happen with it, and then be happy with whatever the decision is. So again, another strand of social audio that perhaps hadn't even thought of. And this is what I love about social audio. They're continually coming up with ideas and ways of doing things that we didn't even imagine. So it's so interesting to watch it all evolve and change and take on all manner of different things. So search bar. Clubhouse is working on a search bar for the houses page. Well, as we've just said, at the moment, the app is quite crowded. It's difficult to find things. It seems like this is a no-brainer that there should be a search bar, but currently there's not, because they've been invite only up till now. Is that right?
Yeah. So there are people on Clubhouse who are members of hundreds of houses. And there's been requests for the ability to pin certain houses to the top of your house tab, but also the search bar has been widely requested. And so as a way to easily find the houses that you're a member of, in all of the many that you may be a member of, the search bar is going to be very appreciated by much of the community.
And another search mechanism that they're going to be introducing, I think, is also topics. So over here on Spaces, we were very grateful when the addition of topics arrived with the feature, so that people could, look via whatever topics they were following here on Twitter and hopefully see a more relevant array of social audio spaces that might be spinning up either live or in the future scheduled that you might want to jump into. Clubhouse have jumped on this idea as well, and it looks as though we can look forward to topics being added to houses, and I'm assuming that will link back into that search bar.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And this is, you're adding up to 5 topics to your house, which will help it be shown or recommended to people who might be interested in those. This, again, is one part of a broader approach to discovery of houses. And I think the big picture here is they need to get to a point where there are a good variety of houses, and these houses are active, and people are finding them organically in the hallway and joining them and enjoying them and taking part, to the point where Clubhouse can then decide which ones of those are good ones to recommend to new users who join the app. So that's the next stage, and this is going to help somewhat with that. And then they're going to have a question about, well, when somebody joins the app, how do you get that person to tell you your interests in a good way, so that you can do this great job of matching people with the kinds of communities that they might want to join. So you need to get to that place for this all to sort of work very nicely for people who are arriving as well as people who are already there.
Yeah, and you said there about them, giving you the option to select 5 topics. I mean, over here on Spaces, the topics that you can add when you schedule a space are still quite bonkers. They've always been a little bit bonkers, but they're still bonkers. And you can only add 3 to your space. So I wonder how pre-designed those topic tags will be over in Clubhouse. Over here, you're so tightly bound into whatever Spaces offers you, and 9 times out of 10 I can't find the ones that I feel are relevant to whatever the spaces that I'm going to be creating. So I wonder how varied and how predetermined those will be over on Clubhouse. Have we got any idea of that at all?
Yeah, so topics actually have been a big thing sort of universally on Clubhouse since I think late 2021, something like that. They reconfigured them at that point. And there's a wide number of topics, and people can submit new topics if they can't find one that they're interested in or that applies to them. But you can choose all sorts of things from geographical locations to sports teams to interests, Web3 topics, just all kinds of different topics that you can put on your profile. You have been with clubs been able to add 3 topics to a club page so that people could potentially find your club by that topic if they do a search. And now, of course, we're going to have houses with topics as well. And rooms even have been able to have topics added to them. So topics have been fairly prevalent around the platform and really a nice way to find different people and different rooms and clubs that you're interested in. And so this is just a continuation of that. And they are a lot less clunky on Clubhouse than they are on Twitter. I mean, Twitter, you don't know necessarily which ones you're going to have available to choose for your space. All of the topics that are available on Clubhouse are available for all users, all rooms, all clubs, and soon all houses.
Yeah, and I seem to remember when I first signed up to Clubhouse, there was a fairly healthy list of like what were my interests as I was trying to, you kind of sign up and you click on various things to hopefully give the algorithm some idea where to start with what might interest you. And I seem to remember there was quite a nice lengthy amount of scrolling to do around that. So I'm hopeful that those topics are going to be kind of more fleshed out than perhaps they are over here on Spaces. Amazing. Well, I mean, what has there been anything else? I mean, could there possibly be anything else? We've spoken about subscriptions being added to houses. We've spoken about the instant invites, the new search bar, and then topics. Have I missed anything, Morgan?
I don't think so. I mean, for people on Clubhouse, probably clubs merging with houses is the really big thing this week. So the first time that roadmap is being made very explicit for everyone. There's a small other one, which is just part of that, which is scheduling for house rooms. So we don't know any details about that, but it'll be interesting to see how this is redone, I think, for houses. Again, I can only speculate there, but if at the moment, let's say you have a setting in your house where any member can start a room, would it make sense for any member of the house to be able to schedule one too? So rather than it just be led by the admins, what does it look like if you have community scheduling? But again, we don't know what that looks like yet. So it's something that should be coming soon.
Great. Another one to watch out for. Well, I think that's all of our Clubhouse news for now. I'm going to run through a few other bits that myself and Madeline had collected from around the internet. I've already put the tweets in the nest, as I say. Apologies for not being as slick as Madeline Sklar, but I'm put them in the nest first, and I'm just going to run through them now. And then I want to take the mic requests. Frank, I can see that you've been requesting the mic for a while, and we'll come to you shortly. So the first tweet is one that we found from Sajad. Thank you so much. You were in the space a little while ago. I think perhaps you've dropped out now. But this one is about notifications. So Twitter Spaces has restarted to send notification when a user you follow starts a space or joins one. Now, this was something myself and Madeline had noticed, that notifications had suddenly disappeared. You either couldn't any longer opt to get notifications when someone that you were following span up a space. That kind of disappeared from the bell icon for a while. But then even those people who you had perhaps done that with in the past, you weren't getting those notifications from anymore. So it seems like that is now back. It's a very useful feature because obviously it lets people know that this is all going on and that they can join in. Also, just previous to starting this space today, I noticed something that had been missing for me, which was the notification card saying don't forget to start your space in 30 minutes, which pops up in your notifications when you're a host and you've scheduled a space. I always use that card to actually start the space from. So the fact that it wasn't there in my notifications was kind of clunky because I had to remember to go, like, how do I get back into spaces and where can I find it from and all those kind of things. Go from my timeline or go from the calendar in the scheduling section. But it appeared again today, 30 minutes before we started. There it was. So yeah, I tweeted that out shortly before we started, and I'm glad to see that that's back. So whether or not that was a glitch, whether it was a conscious decision from Twitter, I don't know, but I'm very glad it's back. Our next tweet is about the number of spaces that were created in January 2023, courtesy of our friends at Spaces Dashboard. Hi there, Andrew. I can see you. I would love for you to come and chat to us about these stats in a moment. This little GIF that you've created here, more than 1 million Twitter spaces were created in January. So, I mean, we're well aware that kind of Elon has got behind spaces in terms of being in them. He's had his moment where he threw his paddy and toys out of pram and it disappeared for just a few hours, George. I know it was just a few hours. It felt like longer. But it would, these stats, they surely can't ignore stats like these. So, yeah, incredible to see more than 1 million Twitter spaces created in the first month of the year. Fantastic. Next up is a piece of news about WhatsApp, again from our friend Sajad. WhatsApp is apparently testing the ability to add voice statuses. So your voice status will be 30 seconds long and you'll be able to record your own message that people can come along and listen to over on WhatsApp. I know WhatsApp is used probably way more over here in the UK, I think, than the US at the moment. But yeah, people put their little text statuses on their WhatsApp. Sometimes they change them, sometimes they leave them for years. This may well be similar. You may well record your voice status and it may be the same in 20 years' time. But yeah, another kind of audio addition to a well-loved app, which is good to see. And finally, this was something that Morgan actually drew our attention to regarding a conversation that was on the Information website, which was a conversation about the future of Stripe. The reason I'm mentioning it is because it was a social audio conversation on their website about the future of Stripe. Now, this is really interesting because to see the screenshot of this, it looks very much like LinkedIn audio events. It is exactly what we would expect of a social audio app. We've got people's avatar photos in circles. We've got the little microphone symbol. You can tell, there's a green halo around the guy who's speaking. You've got muted mic icons with other people. It's all very, very familiar. But this is the Information doing it on their website. It's not a standalone app. It's not attached to a social media app per se. This is completely standalone and them doing it for themselves on their site. So do we think we will see more of that around and about? I think maybe we will. I mean, certainly the stories format that we see on Instagram and Facebook, you can create those and have those hosted on your own website in a very similar way. And I think the more that this kind of recognisable way of creating social audio rolls out in different places, I think more and more people may well consider hosting their own alongside their website and their own thing. So really interesting use of social audio over there, and just amazing to see that it's already recognisable as a social audio event. Morgan, you found this Information screenshot here that I've been talking about. Did it surprise you to come across that at all? Do you think more people will be using it on their sites?
In a way, no, because with various rudimentary parts, it's quite easy to put together a thing like this. There's also a number of startups who try to do their own social audio app back in 2021 pivoted and decided to white label the technology to other companies. So I don't know if that's going on here. And the information are obviously pretty good at this. They have a good subscriber base and providing something that looks, I think, to me, quite a lot like a LinkedIn audio event makes sense. But yeah, as you said, it's just to see the user interface that's very familiar for social audio. I think that's really nice because it means people know what they're looking at. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see if we see this added to other people in their own custom ways. It's not yet, I think, like social audio in the full-fledged way that we think of it, but maybe that doesn't matter. It's for the network is the subscribers to the information. It's not intended to be sort of discoverable by the general public in that sense. But it's still a way for people to talk to each other and for subscribers to feel more involved in a live way. And I think that's great.
Yeah, I can kind of see it being used potentially, behind, like in a members area, behind a paywall, if you like. So, you're a member of a certain news agency or something like that. You're getting additional content from them when you're in that members area, but potentially those creators could be spinning up a social audio space within that closed area where you can all be discussing the content that's available to you as a subscriber. So I think it's a really interesting addition to creating that kind of subscription tier content potentially, even if it's not kind of immediately accessible from the off. So yeah, interesting. Hi there, Frank. Thank you for being patient and welcome to All Things Audio.
Yeah, good evening from Germany. After using Clubhouse for now exactly 2 years, I think it's an interesting time of change in social media terms in just general, and I'm really curious how these will impact the world of political media and the public in general. But I had a comment on this instant invite on Clubhouse with the 15 minutes thing because I don't think that this is aimed at generating new users directly. But what I think is that it's actually, when you have a setup, and I use this example of a family setup that I experienced like 15 years ago or something, where somebody would go into another country and from there trying to connect to their contacts and then searching for a media to do so on, let's say, their birthday, and then wanting to connect. And if you are on any social media app, you will have probably experienced that reluctancy of your contacts to use it with you. And this time frame of 15 minutes, in my opinion, is really aimed at those other contacts which you want to reach in an instant moment, for just that moment, but who probably deny to go into that app completely. And so it's the users that Clubhouse kind of draws into with that are the actual users on the app. And so this 15 minutes thing is not really aimed towards drawing these reluctant people in, but so that somebody does not have to go to another app. That is what I think this is about, and that is what I wanted to comment.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting. I suppose what we've always said about these social audio events is that they keep people within the ecosystem that you're in. So it's great for LinkedIn if we use a LinkedIn audio event, and it keeps you within LinkedIn if you're going to be there for an hour. If you're going to be here for an hour listening to All Things Audio, you're here on Twitter while you're doing it. You might be scrolling, you might be following new people that are in the space. It keeps people within the app, and I guess that is a way for Clubhouse to draw those people in. I just wonder about it from, if I think about myself, if I was to receive an instant invite to Clubhouse and I was aware even of what Clubhouse was, and someone I know has then sent me that invite, I guess initially you feel, oh, someone wants to hear from me, which is always, it's going to beef you up a bit and go, oh, okay, yeah, I might jump in and do that. But I wonder if that moment of, kind of clicking on the link and going in there, it just feels like a really heavy push to ask people to jump in and speak and then, become a regular user of the app. I think they're asking an awful lot of people, or am I just being too sensitive about it?
I think you are, and just think of that other use case. Clubhouse audio is really superior to this app. You have to just admit that. And think of all the musicians that are connected in these rooms on Clubhouse with 15 musicians or more jamming live on stage, being exposed to a global audience. And now you have this 15-minute window where they can invite anybody to just listen to whatever the jam session is. Or I think there is a way to these online venues that's waiting for the audio quality that Clubhouse hosts. So I think there's something to that 15-minute thing which we are not seeing right now or hearing right now.
Morgan, do you think that they will extend that? Do you think 15 minutes is a considered, they obviously have made this decision off the back of something. They must know that within 15 minutes, that's when people get to the meat of whatever is being discussed. Or, certainly we've discussed it here on Spaces that the first kind of 5-10 minutes of your space needs to be set up because you're trying to get people in.
Yeah, so I have my suspicions here. I think you're probably not inviting people in at the start of a conversation. Typically, this is going to be you're already in a conversation. And you think, oh, I know my friend so and so, he should really be here. And you ping him and say, hey, you've got a moment to talk. We've got a couple of people I want to introduce you to, and then they come in. Like they come in if they're prepared to talk. But my suspicion is that Clubhouse has a pretty good read by this stage that when somebody joins a conversation, if they're still there after 10 minutes, you've got somebody who is interested in that conversation, who is going to stick it through. And this is the point where, if this is about converting people to downloading an app they don't have yet, is a great time to ask them, because they're in a conversation and they want to keep talking. And that's like, okay, well, to keep talking, then you can come and directly join this room in the house and keep talking. But I think it's that sort of sweet spot that if the listener has retained that long already, and in this case it's a speaker, so it's slightly different, then you've got a good idea that they're into the conversation.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say was I feel like Clubhouse, because they're switching over this new code base and they're doing houses and all that, there's a bit of a renaissance happening with Clubhouse right now, where it's kind of getting exciting again. It had sort of gotten a little dormant. People had left. And with these houses becoming a bigger and bigger thing, and people being able to open up their house rooms to the public in the app, it's really led to a lot more of discovery of different communities. There are people, you can scroll through your hallway and see that there's people talking about whatever, something that's interesting to you, and you can tap into that room and then you can join the wait list for the house. And it has sort of rekindled interest in a lot of things when it comes to Clubhouse, and is so far been a good thing. We'll see how it continues on.
Yeah, I have to admit, I had a scroll through the house list the other day, and for once I wasn't kind of left thinking, oh, this is still an awful lot of people talking about Web3 and NFTs and crypto and stuff that, I'm marginally interested in, but I don't want everything that I'm recommended to be that. And houses did seem to have a bit more of an expansive topic variation. So, yeah, potentially this is the way forward for being shown houses that are perhaps a bit more relevant to what I want to join in with. George, hello. Lovely to have you with us this week. How are you?
Thank you. Hi, back from Israel. Boy, when I hear this stuff, my head is spinning. It sounds to me, I just wish Clubhouse would hire a group dynamics psychologist or a social psychologist. This smacks of engineers designing human interfaces, and it violates so many principles of group dynamics, in-group and out-group behavior. This 15-minute thing, forcing people to download apps when they are disoriented. It sounds like a mess. It's the usual engineering. It sounds like the usual engineering people of and adding features and options is a good thing for engineers. It's a bad thing for people. It floods them with too many decisions, makes them feel incompetent, makes them feel lost. It just smacks of engineering without the psychology. And I just hope somebody can get a hold of these guys and explain to them the importance of the human engineering aspects of this whole thing, which sounds like it's just dramatically neglected.
Yeah, if I may, George, there's
Sure, Morgan.
So again, we'll see what happens with this, but
yeah, of course.
I think looking at it, this is what they're trying to do is remove all of those options and massively simplify it. So your experience of somebody who joins this way is you're not joining anything that's complex. What you see is in your web browser, just you and the other few people who are talking. There are no other options. It's just a white space with your profile pictures, and that's it. So it's in fact, for me, I think the most simple talking experience that I've seen on the internet, other than picking up the phone to somebody. And it's wholly designed about the only thing you're asked to do is to talk with somebody. You're in the conversation.
Yes, however, when people join a group, particularly a group that's been ongoing for a while, that is a standing group that's been perhaps going for weeks, or the individual group that's perhaps been going for 20 minutes, when you join a group, you know subconsciously that it's a psychological prominence. When it happens face to face, everybody turns to that person. They feel very on the spot. They feel very unwelcomed. You need methods. It's like, what did I get dropped in the middle of? What is this whole thing? Is there a paragraph, an onboarding description of what's going on? There are all kinds of things that need to be done. You don't just drop a human being in the middle of a bunch of people who are talking, no matter how simple the interface is.
As a social scientist who studied Clubhouse now for 2 years, I cannot agree more with you, George. And I have to say, right now, I, as an experienced social media user, am shifting away from Clubhouse for a number of reasons. And the one area is the one that you just mentioned. The other is that their communication about what they're doing. I get that there's a competition going on and you can't speak about everything, but there is this human component where you have to communicate what you're about to do, what people can expect, and what they can and have to do with it.
Right.
Yeah, no, I feel that too, absolutely. And I think it's going to depend on how it's used. I think that I can imagine cases where I am like there's somebody I know in real life, and what I'm doing is I'm saying to them, "Hey, could you join a group call? It's me and 2 other people. This person is working on a thing that's in your industry, and I think you'd really enjoy meeting them. Have you got 10 minutes? Can you say hi?" And they are not going to see anything that's hugely complex, and they're not arriving in a large group. They're arriving in a call which has maybe got 2 other people in. So it's a bit like joining a Zoom call with somebody. That is awkward, absolutely. But there might be ways of me, because I'm inviting somebody who already knows, and I can give them that context and explain what it is that I'm asking, then maybe that reduces it somewhat. I don't think it eliminates it. I think you're right.
That's what I'm hoping.
Awkward, isn't it?
That's what I'm hoping guys like you and other people will be able to design I hate to be the critic. I'd rather have a solution, but I'm just hoping that people will realize this. Maybe go hire a group dynamic psychologist or somebody like that.
Well,
And,
George, to be honest, Clubhouse is channeling these responsibilities to the holders of these rooms. So it's going on those people. And I after 2 years, I have to say I don't see that is going in the direction that you and probably I would wish for.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and that's a lot of responsibility for admin, for leaders of houses and everything to take on and think about, if they think about it. So, yeah, wow, what a discussion. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today here on All Things Audio. Thank you, Morgan and Michael, for being my amazing Clubhouse experts as ever. I'm very, very grateful to you both and really appreciate you giving up an hour of your time to chat with us.
Thank you to all of our speakers who came on and shared so much great stuff. And we're available in all of your favorite podcast apps. We're out there, All Things Audio. You can also go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com as well.
You certainly can. And you can catch us here on Twitter and use the hashtag AllThingsAudio, and we'll pick that up throughout the week. So that's it for this week. But thank you so much to everyone that's been here in the space with us and those of you listening. And we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, everybody.